So I'm going to hit record, and just to get started, if you would tell us your name and the years of your service and the branch of your service.
My name's Raif Johnson, and I joined the United States Navy in 1971, and did my tour to 1974. I started, I was in high school, and Gainesville didn't have a whole lot to offer. So being a guy who was wanting to do some other things, I decided to, I was walking downtown and I saw this sign, said, "Uncle Sam wants you," but then my cousins them was all in Vietnam. I said, "I don't want to go to Vietnam," because I was looking at the quotas of the death rate on TV, and they were showing that vividly, how many soldiers got killed. So I said, well, I know I'm going to get a card sooner or later. I think I better go join up. So I was informed through school that they had a delayed entry program for the Navy. I was in the 11th grade. So I joined that program. So I spent my next year in high school. And after that, I spent the summer, such as I'm doing now, spent the summer in Gainesville, and came August the 5th, 1971, I went to basic training.
So did you have any family history of service?
My father was in the Korean conflict, but I didn't have great knowledge about that because we were kind of like dysfunctional.
Yeah.
My dad lived someplace else, and the only way I knew about that was my mother told me. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I did have another person, my father. But anyway, I went on, and when I went to basics, it was like the recruiter told me I used to have this big afro. And the recruiter said, "Oh, man, don't worry about that. He ain't going to cut your hair." I said, okay. And so I get on the bus, and we get to, I went to Jacksonville for the induction, came back, had my class, got my classification. And then I went to Orlando, Florida. And as we were on the bus, and I used to smoke. I was smoking cigarettes. And so we get down there, I got my cigarette on the bus, the man was so nice to us and everything. We get to the gate, he got up, you see y'all put them goddamn cigarettes out. When we get in there, you get on that mark you see on the ground. I said, this has changed dramatically. This has changed dramatically from what they told me. But I'm still thinking I'm not going to get a haircut. Well, then I got to cut my hair. Get off, we go in, and they start to give you your clothes and all that. And we get over to the barber area. So I says, man, I got this fro. You're not going to give me a. He said, no, I'm not going to cut nothing off. And all I could see was my hair falling off. You just told me you weren't cutting nothing. And all my hair was falling in front of me. I said, don't you say you weren't going to cut nothing? Get out the chair. So we went on, and next morning, oh boy, that's when the trouble really started. So it was rough those first couple of weeks for me. And one evening you get to call home, talk to your parents. So one evening I called my mother, because these guys that I knew had made friends with, they were saying, man, this is crazy. I'm not going to stay in this. This is too much. I'm not going to do this. So I called my mom, and I said, Mama, I'm coming home. I said, I can't take this. I never did nothing like this before. And my mama told me, she said, son, if you leave now, you're going to always be a quitter. If you quit now, you're going to be a quitter. Well, the guy told me, I didn't have to worry about swimming because I couldn't swim. Really, I couldn't swim. So the guy said, when the recruiter, he says, oh, you don't have to worry about that. They'll teach you to swim. So, okay. So we go to this qualifying for swimming. And, of course, I didn't pass. So they put you in this group called 4999, where the SEALs teach you to swim. Navy SEALs teach you to swim. And it's it's designed for 4 weeks. You got to learn to swim in 4 weeks. I like to drown a lot of times. They throw you in the water and tell you, they put a pole in, and they said, listen, don't climb up the pole. If you climb up the pole, we're going to let the pole go. Now, some people didn't understand those directions. So when you get down in the water, you're 12 feet of water standing on the bottom of the pool, bubbles coming up, and somebody put some help in for you. What you got to do? Automatically, you start climbing up. You know? But these guys were true to their word. When you get up out the water and catch your breath, you let the stick go, and you go back in the water. So that was my initial entry experience. I finally had a good friend of mine who was another person that couldn't swim. Him and I teamed up to teach each other. And he was a guy, his name was Joe from Philadelphia. And so we coordinated. And the last week when we had to qualify to get out of 49.99, me and Joe contrived a way to help each other. Because I still didn't learn to swim. So Joe helped me when the man was looking. Joe helped pull me through the water till I got to the other side, and that's how I passed the swimming test. Never learned to swim. Amazingly, went to the Navy, never learned to swim. That's one. But after that, there was this. They had this large group of the guys in my barracks, and they said, "Well, listen, we're picking a flag team. You know, it had to be 50 people." And each person's going to have a flag from each state. So, but you got to be so tall. Well, I'm only 5'8". So when they started measuring people, I watched this one guy back up to the wall and tiptoe. White man wasn't looking. So he'd meet the height standard. I said, well, I don't want to be out there. I seen those M14 rifles, and I'd handle one that's heavy. It was heavy. I said, I don't want to be running around with no rifle out there. And so I said, I better try what he just did. So when the guy called me, when he put the tape up and he kind of looked down, I tipped my feet up. So that's how I got in the flag team. So that's what I did through my whole basics. They trained us for the parade ceremonies. Like each group that graduated, we would perform at the ceremony. Bring the flags through, do your flag thing and all that. And that's how I got started from basic. So basic was pretty easy.
How many months was basic?
It was 12 weeks.
12 weeks?
Yes, yeah. It was 12 weeks. And it was pretty tough. Yeah, it was, I think now they only do like 6, but it was pretty tough. And one incident that I can vividly remember, they came and said, well, listen, we're going to have a grass party. Marijuana was a big thing. Everybody smoking marijuana. I smoked marijuana. So here we go. We thinking like that night, boy, they're going to give us some marijuana tomorrow. They're going to have a grass party. We all going to get high. So the next morning we get up, right? They brought us out of bed about 3:30. Took us out on the grinder, which they had this big area asphalt. We called it the grinder. Took us all out. I said, when they passing out the weed? They got around with the can, a bucket or nothing. They ain't gave us no papers or nothing. So the guy says, everybody, at attention. Ready? Jumping jacks. I said, this is not what we came down here. I thought we came down here for a grass party. He said, yeah, this is the grass party. He said, and no. Like that. Set it up here. Yeah, I'll keep it up there.
You were doing jumping jacks, and where's your weed?
Yeah, we ain't got no weed. We got no weed. So the man told us, now, if you fall out, you better make a thud on the ground. So now I look behind me, they got ambulances over there. I said, what they need with the ambulance? I mean, usually PT lasts about an hour, couple of hours, something like that at the most. That's the worst you're going to get. This particular day, it lasted all day. From when we got up till around, we take a break and go with the chow, got something to eat, but then they brought us right back. And this thing went on until like in the evening, like about this time of day. Man, so many guys passed out and the ambulance kept going back and forth to the hospital with people. Thankfully, I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I think I was in pretty good shape, even though I smoked cigarettes. Yeah. But I think I was in pretty good shape. And so we went on, and I did all of the parades with the flag team, and they had this competition of each platoon, how well you would do. You'd get a flag each week for the activity that you participated in. And my platoon got all 10 flags. It was 10 flags you can get. My platoon got all 10 of them, which was, that was exemplary for us. Yeah, when we came through, it was like, that's the group that did the best right there. So I was in the top-notch platoon that came through during the time that I went to basics. And so from there, we all were waiting.
Like October, November or so, you would have gotten out, right? That was August that you went in.
Yeah, so we got, I think, around October. And then I came home for like 30 days, something like that. And then I went to my next duty station, which was Fleet Preparatory School.
Was it called A school at the time?
No, that was just, it wasn't classified. It didn't have a B, or C. It was just Fleet Preparatory. So, and that was held in Middleton, Tennessee, in Memphis. So, after the 30 days, off to Memphis. But I had never been on an airplane.
Oh.
I had never been on an airplane in my life. So when I get back, they flew me to Memphis, Tennessee. And I mean, that was shocking for me. And back then, they used to have these little miniatures on the plane.
Little bottles? Yeah,
those little teeny balls. And I drank a few of those. Because I'd never been up in there. I'm looking down like, what? I'm way up here like, what, 50,000, 45,000 feet? And they tell you how fast you're going. I ain't never been that fast in my life. So, we got to Millington. And
Rick, can I take you back for just a moment? Which is when you got back after those 30 days, did your mother notice a difference in you, do you think?
I wasn't home much.
Oh, okay.
During that time, I would be home, but, I was out. Yeah. Because I was trying to get back to things we did before I went. All my friends, I went to see them because I knew the time was going to run out when I was going to be gone and for a long period of time. So I was running around with my friends a lot. So I couldn't say factually that she actually, saw a difference. Yeah. Yeah, because I was busy trying to catch up on girlfriends and, things that I supposedly had not been doing, I went back to doing. Yeah. Yeah, but I had a great time at home. I did. Yeah. It was kind of saddening when I did have to go, because I'm thinking now, it's not like I'm gonna be gone a few weeks. Yeah. I'm gonna be gone a long time. But anyway, I get to Memphis, Tennessee, and it was the first time you were able to wear civilian clothes. They had actually, I started out, my pay was $139 a month. I couldn't believe those people paid that little bit of money. I didn't realize, I didn't even ask in the beginning how much they paid. I didn't think to do that. I wanted to get away from Gainesville so bad. I didn't even question how much I was going to get paid. Well, they broke it to me. $139 a month is what you get. And so before we got out of basics, the government gave us 100% raise. So I got $239 a month, which, boy, that was great, And I get to Millington, and we start the training for going on a ship. Yeah. That's where they teach you how to tie knots and teach you how to moor the ship, teach you, how the anchor works and different shipboard activities, things that the ship you have to do in order to launch the ship and things you have to do to bring it in. Yeah. Yeah. And that took about 4 weeks, something like that. But my experience was when they said we could wear civilian clothes. Well, I hadn't spent any money. So I go downtown. Never been to a big city like that in my life. Never. First time going anywhere. Go downtown. And so we at the bus station. The ladies came up there and said, "Hey, you want a date?" I said, "Boy, you know, I done hit heaven. I have never had a woman come up and ask me for a date." I said, "Yeah, when I got to come and get you, if I got to get a taxi or something, come pick you up." My friend came over. They've been living in Chicago, New York, Philly. Some of my friends, they came over. Said, "Raif, come here." I said, "Yeah, what? Y'all interrupted me. This girl said she want a date." This is my first, time off the base into town. They said, "Raif, no, it's not what she's talking about." I said, "Man, y'all pulling my leg. The girl is talking to me. She telling me she want a date. Now, I'm gonna get me a date with this girl." So they said, "Raif, no, that's not how it works. So you gotta have $10 and $2 for a room." I said, "Man, come on, I ain't never did that in my life. I ain't never did nothing like that." He said, "Well, if you're gonna do it now, that's what you're gonna have to do." I said, "Well, no, forget that. I'm going to buy me some clothes." So I went uptown and I went shopping. And Memphis had they got a beautiful, line of clothes that, you don't get to see in this area. So I bought me some nice outfits went back to the ship. And, we finagled and messed around. And it came time to get my paperwork to go to the actual ship. And that was exciting. I was like, "What? We're going to go to a ship now?" Because I was hoping I got, air station, something like that. But fleet preparatory tell you going to a ship, basically. That's what you're going to do. So we get to Pensacola, Florida. Man, this ship, I never seen nothing that big in my life. I walked up on it. It was awesome. I mean, this thing was huge. I said, "This is where I'm going to be?" "Yeah, this is where you're going to be. Go on board." We go on board, and they assign us to KP, Kitchen Patrol.
Was it what sort of ship was it?
It was an aircraft carrier.
Do you remember its name?
Yeah, the USS Lexington CBT-16.
Wow.
And they had anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 men on it.
It's a city.
Yeah, small city. Some towns are not that big. Yeah. But it was just overwhelming when I walked up on it and looked. I'd never seen nothing like that.
Yeah.
So I got on board. They said the Navy got this thing in place where you got to do 90 days in the kitchen. That's a sweat box. I mean, you work your buns off in there. Peeling potatoes, because you eat a lot of potatoes, you eat a lot of roast beef, you eat a lot of vegetables, you eat a lot of cornbread. They'd make even the cake tasted like cornbread. The ship I was on, they'd tell you that's cake. I said, "Man, just give me that the same as cornbread." They just like cornbread. But, I didn't realize also that there was a lot of street life on board that ship.
Street life?
Yeah, a lot of street life. Because you had guys from, like I say, New York, Chicago, and all those cities were, Gainesville had nothing like that. So there was a lot of drugs on board my ship. There were a lot of people indulging in heroin, cocaine. Of course, marijuana was there. But it was ran over terribly to the point where it was like an epidemic on there. It was terrible. You could walk around and find needles everywhere. And they used to bring the dogs on and, find drugs all the time on the ship. A lot of people don't think that the military had problems like that because it's supposed to be this organization.
Yeah.
But It was overran.
We kind of knew about it in Vietnam, right? Like in
Yeah.
country. But I never heard of it in the Navy.
Yeah, these guys were, because they come from the city.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys came from big cities.
Yeah.
So they knew about heroin and cocaine and all that. And so they brought, just like kids brought when they went to the amnesty room, they brought hand grenades and guns because they had them already. And they thought they were going off the wall, they could bring their own gun. So they brought them. Saw that plenty of times. But yeah, that was one of the spots that was kind of sore. I didn't get into doing drugs of that nature, but what happened was the captain of the ship gave an amnesty program that anybody who was addicted had the opportunity to go to a rehab. And man, he had quite a few people come forward that needed help. But beyond that, I started to acclimate to the ship. I got seasick, of course, never being on the ship.
This is the first 90 days during KP. You were actually going offshore?
Well, yeah, we got a chance to go to in the town. We got a chance to go into town. But your works program for those first 90 days was in that kitchen.
Yeah.
But when Reveille was called, we get to go into town, yeah. Unless you had what they call duty, which means you had to stand duty for the night. It's like a watch. You had to stand watch. Other than that, you got to go into town.
I've heard like there's a huge, tall aircraft carrier that they don't move that much in the water.
Well, I was with 914 feet long. It displaced 85,000 tons of water. But it bobbed around.
Yeah.
You know, the ocean has more power than what people ever believe.
Yeah.
I have seen the ocean as smooth as this table. It's like a sheet of glass. And I've seen the ocean so rough until our carrier was standing up like that in the water. It was standing straight up, and the waves would still be coming over. And in that activity, you had to go, your bunk, you used to have a strap on it. And you would have to strap yourself in to ride that out. They'll tell you, you need to go strap in because this is going to be a rough one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way you could tell is you go to the bow, and ships are made in parts. It's not one solid piece. It's made in, it's got what they call an actuator in it, like at the bow. So what happens when a strong wave hit it, it's like a shock absorber. It'll spring back. And if you go up and look, you can see how far it moves. You can see how far, and that's amazing to watch, to go see, because you're looking at this mammoth piece of iron just got moved by some water. So yeah, the ocean is way more powerful than people ever believe. We've been in some storms where captains say, y'all better go put them buckles on and get in bed, lay down, because we got to ride in, and the ship be doing like that. And be going bounce around like a little cork out there. And it was 914 feet long, straight steel.
That's 3 football fields.
Yeah, it was scary. But later on, after I got out of the kitchen duty, I went to work as a bosun mate. Terrible job. Terrible job.
Why so? Explain that to me.
It was terrible because all you did was chip paint all day. They chip and paint the ship all the time. That's what bosun mates do, basically, besides help moor the ship when it comes in. But beyond all of that, the people, you would not think by being in this organization that you're going to run into some terrible people, during that time. You're thinking, hey, I'm going to have this time. I'm going to be able to move along, do what I'm supposed to do. Uncle Sam's got everything worked out. I'm not going to have these problems. Well, guess what? That was not true. Along that walk, racism and segregation was just 1970. I think President Johnson just had wrote the Civil Rights Bill into law. And so there were people from Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, from all these different areas that their mindset had not changed. These people were in charge most of the time. Your chief, he could be from Kentucky or Virginia, one of those places, or Louisiana. Well, on my ship, there was only about 250 blacks out of 1,500 to 2,000 people. So it wasn't conducive. It wasn't a real good relationship, black and white. That wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. There used to be fights all the time, from guys coming from Texas, all these southern states that the mentality of the people had not changed. So that, coupled with having to do your job for a black guy, particularly myself, made it difficult. Because you had to fend off all these people who particularly didn't like you. You had to work for people who didn't like you. So in the early onset, I started to form this mindset, I don't want to be here. But I didn't know what to do.
Signed a contract.
Yeah, I got to hold up to it. So I got to work for this guy that's working me like all day. I mean, and I can't tell him, no, I'm not going to go do the work. But he's got some of these other guys doing these little pretty jobs and I doing, but he got me hanging off the side of the ship. Sharks jumping. Sharks travel around the ship, because you throw food off. So, if you mess around and fall in the water, hey, you got a problem. It's going to be a lot of little teeth running around you. So that was an overtone for my tour.
And the kind of culture of hierarchy, of chain of command. If you're a black guy and you take issue with your superior officer and he's white, then it's insubordination, right?
Yeah. You had no recourse, basically. You had no recourse. I mean, everybody in the upper echelon, and there was maybe a rare one human being that would be, compassionate and could get you past. And that happened to me. I was fortunate to meet a guy named Mr. David Smith. He was a first-class petty officer. On an occasion, I've been working on the flight deck, which they pay you hazardous pay for that. I was working on the flight deck, and we put a plane up. I worked on the start crew, which the guys that wear like the blue shirts. You go up white shirts. They got all different colors. You go up. My job was to start the jets up. I was to put the electrical plug under the airplane, start it up. So we had this huge A3 airplane one night. I go up. I'll never forget it. I was up there. I started it up, but the deck of the carrier was made from wood. Yeah, it's so old it was made from wood. So it was splinter. So sometimes it makes a little rut. So when the planes try to come off the elevator, they might stick in a rut. The guy got to give it a little more power like you would do with a car. Get it through that rut. So I'm trying to get my equipment off of the elevator. This guy trying to get the plane off the elevator. So next thing I know, he's gotten a bit ahead of me and the exhaust of the airplane is on me. It blew me so hard, I had to get off my vehicle and I'm trying to hide behind it. But I couldn't do it. Finally, he stopped. And next thing I know, I was looking and all I could see was myself standing at the end of the elevator. And it's at the end, it's water. So I was thinking, what would have happened if I got blown off of this thing? It's nighttime. The survival rate of a person going in the water at night is none involved. They're not going to find you. They're not going to get you. They don't have that much light. You're just like about that big out there in all that water at night.
How far back did it blow you?
It blew me almost off the deck, back to the end of the elevator before the guy turned the plane off of me. He had to turn it to go to the caliper. What saved me was he turned it. But it was just blowing me. And before it blew me off, he turned it. Thank God for that. I didn't get blown over the side. That was the most close experience I came to getting really hurt.
Hence the hazard pay, right?
Yeah, they gave me $95 a month for hazard duty pay. So that made me get $239 plus 95, a little bit extra cash. I sent that home to my mama. But anyway, I came down from on the deck and I went to my chief. I said, I'm not going back up there. I've been doing this for over a year now. I've been working up there for a year. I said, I'm not going back up there. I don't care what you say, court-martial me, whatever. I'm not going to get killed up there. Not like that. So he said, Johnson, you signed the contract. I could work you 23 hours a day and give you 1 hour sleep. That's all I got to do. I said, Chief, you can put me in the brig then, because I'm not going. They got a jail on the ship. They had like 5 cells up there. I've been up there and visited guys that, they put in the brig. And all they would give you in the brig was bread and water. That was, today is considered cruel and unusual punishment. But the military could do that. They give you bread and water, I think for 3 days. And then they had to give you a hot meal, something like that. But I was willing to do that because I wasn't going to get killed. Not like that. Anyway, Chief said to me, all right, Johnson, I'm going to find something else for you to do. I said, well, okay, Chief. So next couple of days, I worked, around the deck, sanding, dripping paint stuff. Finally, he told me to go up and see First Class Smith. His name was David Smith. Really, really intelligent man. Intelligence a lot of times goes past prejudice. If you are intelligent enough to know, your status and right from wrong and all that, you don't have to be prejudiced. You don't have to do none of that. And I was 19 years old, and Mr. Smith was 38. And he was a career sailor. And he took me in, and the first thing he told me, he said, listen, to work for me, you got to do two things for me. First, you got to make good coffee. And he taught me how he wanted the coffee made. He says, you see that book over there? I said, yes, sir. It's a dictionary. He said, the second thing you got to do is you got to learn a word every day of once a week. You got to learn how to spell it. You got to learn what it means. And you got to learn how to use it in context in a conversation. And that's what we did. Every day, I pick a word, I learn to spell it, and I learn how to communicate that word in conversation. And I spent the rest of my tour with Mr. Smith. And
what was your job while you were working with?
Well, my job was to work on radio.
Okay.
Work on the radios for the pilots that, because they had these old big heavy, I call them R3s, R23s, something like that. I don't remember the exact name, but they were heavy. And we had this Jewish guy. I didn't know about Jewish people, but David, which his name was David also, was a Jewish guy because he had the beard and he wore the little beanie hat. You know what I'm saying? So I said, and for some reason it seemed like he didn't like me, but he didn't really push it. He was a good guy. He showed me how to work on the radios because he was a second-class petty officer. His job was to work on the radio. Well, Mr. Smith always drove him. And they would be talking about Judaism and, the relationship Jews have in the world. They would have those type of conversations when there was nothing to do. We would sit around and conversate about different social issues, But anyway, Mr. Smith, he was a guy that was fair. I worked hard for him too, because when David messed around and went on leave or something, and we were out, because he'd go on leave, I'd be the guy who would tote those radios all the way up to the superstructure. I'd be the guy that would help him because he didn't like to work. Mr. Smith didn't like the work. He was in charge. He had 2 people working for him, and you're supposed to know your job. So when the other David would go, I learned to work on those radios. I learned to repair them and put them together and take them up to the deck. And so we really had a great relationship. I learned a lot from him as a human. I mean, I was 19, so I was really, what people say, I was real impressionable. And during my whole tour, and even afterward, after I got out of the Navy, him and I were still friends. I still got the opportunity to visit and go to his home and be human. Yeah. But the other people that I met from different places, they really spoiled the tour. Humans, they really spoiled the tour. They came on with attitudes that were from wherever they lived, and I didn't have that. I didn't have that. For some reason, even though I had people all around me with these attitudes, I didn't have it. I tend to have been always neutral. I didn't care what color you was. If you were my friend, I had this guy, and I met him in basic training too. He was from Appalachian, and they used to call him Hillbilly. And he barely could read and write. But when he wanted something read, he would talk to me. I would help him read it, And we ended up becoming best buddies, And those people don't tend to be real friendly with what they call outsiders. But, him and I, we got to be friends. We were friends for my whole time. But now, again, there were other people that they were just terrible. It was just terrible. So that turned my tour into a real nightmare.
You were on the Lexington from 72 to 74?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Where did you go?
Well, we went to, first we had to go and do some repairs in Mobile, Alabama. Mm-hmm. Oh man, Government Street. The tunnel under Government Street is leaking. You go with a car, you ride through the tunnel, you see all this water leaking through the wall, you say, I'm not going through there ever again if I make it. They done built a new one. I know they got a couple of new ones now. But back then, that thing scared me to death. Every time we get ready to leave to come to Pensacola, because we could come back to Pensacola, we go down there to the club, but we actually live in a historic place called the Battle House Hotel in Mobile. I don't know whether they kept it and preserved it or not. But the Navy put us up in this hotel. They put 4 people in each room. And we stayed in Mobile for a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just repairs to the Lexington?
Yeah, for repairs on...
In preparation for deployment? Was that
Well, it was getting ready. Well, the Lexington was so old. Yeah. I mean, it was an old carrier. And it was about to sink just sitting out in the water, So they took it in so they could patch the holes in it. We didn't know it, but when they told us about it, it was like, what? You always pumping water out this thing, keep it afloat. It could have sank right in the, at the dock. Yeah. But we spent that time in Mobile, and we had some great experiences. 2 guys that I used to be with, they liked to sing. At least they thought they could sing. So we would go to the clubs, and they'd come to the door, and they'd start the little harmonies and do some little tunes, and the man let us in free. And, come on in, you guys entertainers. Nobody would answer up like, yeah, we entertainers. We just take the bait and go in. So we were doing this for quite a while, going out. So this one particular night, we go to the club, and the man we in there. After the entertainer who was on stage got through, the guy picked the mic up. He said, hey, man, we got a new group in here. We would love to hear sing tonight. He was talking about us. After a while, they put the spotlight on the table where we was at, Everybody got on the floor, started crawling out. We crawled out the place, man. Never went back there again. This guy had put us on the spot because nobody sang. You know, we just go to the door and just harmonize a little bit and act like we were singing group. And we used to get in that place free all the time. Yeah, I would go down into town, Mobile, and I go to church on Sunday sometimes, not all the time, but on some Sundays. So I went to this church and I met this guy named Mr. Bestito. And anywhere I used to go, I used to like I said, buy things from there. So, you know, when I came home, I'd be different. Mr. Bestito was a tailor. And his shop was on Davis Avenue or Davis Street in Mobile. Henry Aaron's Loop run around in that area, and I think Alabama A&M is somewhere over in there. But anyway, we used to go up there. Mr. Bestito would make our clothes. He'd make my clothes for me. And, you know, we'd go out looking fabulous. I mean, and clothes wasn't that expensive either. I mean, it wasn't that much to get a suit tailored. I mean, a real suit. You can go in and pick your own material, get your own suit made. You know, that was a great feeling. We would save our money and take a flight to New York and go shopping. Like 3 of us would save our money, and we'd go to New York. Just say, hey, we call up, get reservations. Now, we don't know where we're going to stay. We just get a cab and tell them take us to a hotel. And all 3 of us would pay for the room because we all 3 going to stay there. Yeah, and we do excursions like that. We do that. We did that. We went back to Memphis doing that kind of stuff. We went a lot of little places just doing excursions from the ship, you know, just, yeah.
So was the Lexington dry docked? Is that what it's called?
Well, they didn't dry dock it there. They pulled it up. They did dry dock it later on.
Okay.
But they just pulled it up, and they just did they were redoing the kitchen so that it would be, refitting. They did a whole bunch of stuff. And what you usually done at that time was you stood what they call Firewot, because they're doing a lot of welding. So that would be that'd be the work for most of the time. You go out wherever they welding at, you sit out there with a fire extinguisher, just in case. You know, a fire is the most dangerous thing for a ship. So
especially with a wooden deck.
Yeah, with a wooden deck. Yeah, you know, the Forrestal is one of the first ships that kind of burned up like that. So they always use that as a training film to show you, you know, how to fight fires and how to protect the ship.
Were you also doing like a lot of the boats and stuff at this time, like the painting, the chipping and painting?
Yeah, they did a lot of that. They done a lot of that. If you got that Firewatch job, you had a good job.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have to do that. You be on, you go on your watch, but you know, doing that. But all those guys who didn't have that job, they had one of those little chip and paint things, and I mean, you be grinding with that thing all day long. It was terrible. It was terrible. They paint the ship all the time now. They don't. There's not a time they're not painting it. They got somebody hanging over the side when it's moored in. They got some people out there hanging over the side painting that ship. Because for some reason, I guess the salt water erodes the paint. Just the, being in the air, it erodes the paint relatively quick. So you have to always paint that vessel. Yeah.
So you were in Mobile for a year.
Yeah, for a whole year.
And then where did you go?
We went back out. We used to go to Corpus Christi. We didn't actually go into the town of Corpus Christi, but we went there so that the pilots from Corpus Christi airstrip could come out and land on our ship.
Lackland Air Base. It was in Corpus Christi.
I forget the name of it, but I know they got some where they bring some planes out.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'd have a squadron on board that came from NES Pensacola. We'd bring them with us. Then we'd launch them and catch them. But when we go back out and these new pilots come, they come in an airplane so small, they got drones bigger than them things now. But they have a T2. It's just a little old thing. It's for one person, And these guys, that's how they first started to learn to fly and land on a carrier, on T2. And I don't know what they do today, but back then it was just a little old teeny plane. And these guys would be trying to catch that resting gear with it. Mm-hmm. So when we come out of the yard, we go out and they bring out a squadron to test the equipment, like the arresting gear. They changed the arresting gear wire. So now you got to have somebody test it. Well, I seen before we went, guys trying to catch that wire. It get worn. It get worn. And they miss. Wire get worn, they miss. And some tragic things happen. I seen guys go over in the catwalk, because the side of the ship where you walk at, they call it the catwalk. You know, all the little walkways on the side of the ship, they call that the catwalk. I seen planes go over in it. I mean, then I seen them go all the way over in the water. Now, you know, all they're gonna do is they're gonna have a moment of silence for that guy. I mean, I didn't know these people because they were in the upper echelon group of people. So you don't know him, but you know he just got killed. You know that. You know you didn't see him swim about that water. You know, I went at one time, I saw when the plane went over, I went over and looked, and it was still floating. It was still floating. And I watched this guy struggling to push the canopy up. I mean, he was struggling frantically. But all the electrical equipment is dead. That thing opens, you know, and he didn't pull his ejection thing. It ain't gonna work now. I watched him go down. I watched this, and those planes sank fast. They sank quick. All they had was like the moment of silence, and they say, you know, them jets reaching again. Carry on.
So explain that mechanism to me. You've got a wire that is across the deck.
Right.
And then there's a hook at the back of the plane, right?
Hook at the back of the plane. Don't miss.
Yeah.
Don't miss. Because you don't have enough time. You got 914 feet of deck on that carrier. Now that the other ones, they built some newer ones that are 1,000, 1,500 feet long. You got a better chance. You know, if you don't make it, you can break the airplane. But if you miss on the Lexington and you can't power back up, it's over the bow you go. I've seen that happen too. And I've only, out of maybe 4 or 5 times I saw it happen, also only one guy survived.
How did he survive?
He shot himself out before he went over. He shot himself out at the end of the deck, and he landed in the water. And you know, when they have flight ops, they have a helicopter flying all the time. See, so the helicopter dropped the line and pulled him out the water. You know, they put the guy down, pulled him out the water. But I saw so many of them that didn't make it. It didn't make it. I mean, you get this eerie feeling about, you know, it's life and death for real. It's not playing out here. You got life and death. And when somebody tell you, take your head out your behind and pay attention up here because you can get killed, you better do that. I've seen people get sucked in the propellers because they got a little too close. A lot of times people don't know that a propeller airplane pulls air in order to move. And we had these giant C-130s up there, big old plane. They bring the mail. They take people who need to go on leave. That when we out on the water, they take them in. My friend from Alexandria, Louisiana, he had never worked at night doing jets. And so we were in the chow hall, we were talking, he said to me, he said, man, I'm scared. I said, what are you scared of? He said, man, I'm just scared. I said, well, you can't be scared if you go up there. I said, you need to go tell them you don't want to go up there. I said, because if you're scared, something bad going to happen. Sure enough, he went up there. He got killed. He got in front of the mail plane, And when they got ready to, and actually our lieutenant from our division was flying the plane. And he was trying to direct the plane, but he got too close. And it sucked him in. He splattered all over the superstructure. That was my friend. And that's one of those ones, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's hard to get over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a good guy too.
What was his name, did you say?
His name is a mystery to me now. All I could remember, he was from Alexandria, Louisiana. But we used to eat together, do all kinds of. I messed around in the street, caught the crabs with them girls out there, and I didn't know what to do because I never had it. I didn't know what to do. Man, I was itching like crazy. Those things was eating me up. I'm saying, boy, every time it get hot, man, I go to scratching. So one day I went in the bathroom and I was scratching, and I saw this thing run across me, and I picked it and I caught it, and I went out and I said, "Hey, man, what is this?" And the guy said, "Get away from me! Get away from me with that thing." I said, "What is it?" Because I didn't know. He said, "Man, that's a crab." I said, "What?" I said, "What'd you do with it?" He said, "Man, you better go find some blue ointment and put on that." I said, "What blue ointment gonna do?" He said, "It's gonna kill him." I said, "Oh." So my buddy who got killed from Louisiana, he was telling me about it. He said, "Man, you need to go to the drugstore and get some blue ointment and put on that." So we was in Mobile, and in that hotel. I went and got that blue ointment and put on me, right? But not knowing these things that ate me raw. You know what I'm saying? I put the blue ointment on, and I'm at the burning, like, what? I'm like, I'm on fire. So I feel but we got the bathtub full of water. I said, "Man, turn the water off. Let me get in the bathtub." I ran and jumped in that bathtub. Sat in there, man, that was the best feeling I had in a long time. I sit in the bathtub. After a while, I look around, the crab floating all around in the tub. You see, I told you, that's what you need to do to get them things off of you. But I never had that, I never had like a venereal disease or none of that, until, you get out and you start going out and procuring these different females. So the military, they tell you, they tell you the areas where things are bad. And you go over there, that's where everybody been getting.
they give you briefings.
Yeah, don't go over there, cause it's hot over there. Everybody be at the shot. Everybody be at the sick bay getting shots, from going over in that area. They tell you, don't go over there. Yeah, man, but that's just one of those times. But traveling on that ship, man, it was sometimes a lot of fun, and then at other times it was just terrible. We got paid in cash every payday. There were loan sharks on the ship. Really, yeah. There were guys from these cities who knew about Shylocks and knew about how to hustle people on board. So a guy it'd be just like out here in the world. A guy would borrow money at an exorbitant rate to pay it back. Okay, don't pay back. Well, on the ship at night, they have little red lights lit up. And by each door, the doors are watertight. They got what they call a dogging iron. It's about pipe about that long. And what happens if you need it to make sure the door is watertight, once you run the wheel, you dog it down to make sure that that door is watertight. Well, those things were used for more than tightening the doors. Payday, we had robberies just like out here. You know, like you said, that place is like a city. So, you know, on payday, you got to go pay the guy back who you borrowed that money from, whatever you did with it, gamble it up, because there was gambling. You know, whatever you done with it, you go have to pay these people back. Now, don't pay them. Well, at night when the lights go out, you know, the red lights on, these guys would come and put the either soap in a sock, or they put the lock from their locker in the sock. And while you're in the bed, they'd give you what they call a blanket party. They'd pull a couple of them would go around, they'd pull a blanket over you. I think you probably seen Full Metal Jacket. Yeah, similar to that. It's basically the same thing. They'd beat you with that lock, beat you with that bar of soap, and you wouldn't, and then they scurry off into the dark, so you wouldn't know what happened to you. Yeah, but we had all the stuff that you would think people do in a city. We had that on a big old ship. We had basically all those same things. We had people go AWOL on the ship. We'd be at sea, and there'd be a guy living on. It was a guy lived on our ship for a whole year, and they didn't find him. He lived on there for a whole year, because they got so many little cubby holes. You know, ship got so many compartments, and you know, you could search and search and search. All you got to do is go. It's like a maze. If you know the structure, you just go from one place to the other. And the only thing he used to do was have people bring him food and put it in a certain place. And, you know, and because he was doing that, he got a lot of help. And he was right there on the ship. That was what's so amazing.
Was he kind of it sounds like he got a lot of help. He was kind of like a folk hero on the ship.
Yeah, because he'd been hiding away for all this time. You know, when people hear about it, you get to see him, and then, you ask him why he's doing it. And he said, man, I'm not doing all that work. I'm not doing that. I ain't doing that. Because he didn't want to work, do some of the things that he would be sometimes forced to do. You know what I mean? So sometimes you could kind of sympathize, because you were doing what they told you to do, and it was similar to what he was refusing to do. So you go to chow, you bring a sandwich, leave it for him someplace, you leave it so he can get something to eat. Because he couldn't go up there. Yeah.
Did you ever go to any foreign ports?
We went to Cuba.
Wow.
We went to Cuba. We went to Boston first.
Uh-huh.
We went to Boston for about a year, about 9 months. Now, Boston was, they got a special accent in Boston. On the way going, we went around Florida, went up, and it got colder, because it was going up there in December. It got colder. By the time we got there, icicles was hanging off the ship from the ceiling down here, off the floor almost, from that water, big old icicles. So we get there, we in South Boston. Logan, Dorchester, Worcester, Roxbury, Queens, combat zone. We lost the person there. He got killed, combat zone. But anyway, we get to Boston. I don't know that, I know we have St. Patrick's Day. That's all I know. I learned about people's last names pretty much gives the culture where they come from. Like O'Hara, that's an Irish guy. O'Donnell, that's an Irish person. You know what I'm saying? Brimmerman, that's a Jewish guy. You can kind of Italians always got a lot of I's at the end of their name. I learned that, through this walk. Because I didn't know. I didn't. So we get to Boston and come to find out, these Irish guys is tough. All right, so we in Logan, and if we want to go somewhere, we got to go through South Boston. And now that's where we had all the busing problems. That's where everybody got the problems about, you don't want to bus these people to this area. You don't want to bus these people over here. So now it's a big fight. Boston had all that going on back in the 70s. Busing, when they started saying they were going to bus people from one school to the other. But the Irish were adamant about not doing none of that, or not allowing certain ethnic groups to be in their neighborhood. So I didn't know. I didn't realize that, people would have I know people have mentalities, but you don't really find out until you actually face it. You see, yeah, some people is like that for real. So we were going in, and the captain of our ship says, listen, he was talking to the black guy. He says, now, when y'all leave here, make sure it's 4 of you. Because wherever you go, you're more than likely going to run into some problems. And we want y'all to make it back here. So if it's 4 of y'all travel together all the time, it's a high probability you're going to get back. Which, that's just word of mouth. There ain't no factual basis.
No guarantee there.
No. But in fact, we did. We teamed up, myself and 3 other guys. We were already friends of a sort. We teamed up to go whenever we go to the clubs or go into a shop or whatever. We had to go through Irish Town, South Boston. They let us go through, but there was a fight on the way back. When we got ready to come back, what you niggas doing coming through here? Who they talking to? He talking to you. I said, well, come off the porch, man. Come off the porch and say that. Sure enough, them Irish boys don't play. They come off the porch. Say the same thing you said before. Nigga, you don't come back through here. Well, here the fight go. Man, I have fought, me and my friends, we have fought from somewhere up in the middle of Irish Town all the way back to, I'm so exhausted. We fighting and running. Fighting and running. Fighting and running. To the point we take a break from going to town. Because, man, you don't want to fight every time you go.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You know you got to fight coming back if you don't fight going. Come on. So we would, a lot of times, just stick around the ship rather than go into town or go to the club. Because it was just too much. Yeah, I'm telling you, it was just too much. If them Irish boys caught you coming back, it was a fight, man. It was a real battle. And I couldn't imagine, after knowing, later on, picking up Irish history, and then these people were immigrants too. They immigrated to America. You went, Ireland is another country someplace else. So why would you have an animosity against me? I'm already here too. I've been here. I went, my ancestors were brought here, but I've been here all the time. And so your ancestors probably, some of those were offsprings from old families, you know what I mean, back then. And some of those, because that was in the early 70s. Some of those were offsprings from, older families. But the mentality was terrible. I don't know how it is today. I'm thinking and hoping that people got different views. I try to have a totally different view. Of course, I never did have animosity toward those people because I didn't know nothing about them to be bad with them about. Yeah. What am I be bad with them for? But for some reason, they already had this embattlement for. Yeah, it was already instilled in there. So we used to fight all the time.
You know, it's interesting to me, like hearing you talk. You just called South Boston like a war zone. And one of the things that I found with a lot of the veterans that I've spoken to and a lot of civilians that I speak to is they think about war as something that happens over there far away. And it's happening in the streets over here.
Yeah. No, that was we actually started toting guns. My friend, he went home and brought his. He didn't let nobody know he had it. But he said, "Man, I'm not getting whooped up like that." He said, "We're gonna have protection when we go out." He said, "Oh, we had to fire that pistol off a few times. Now let them boys in South Boston know we ain't playing. Ain't nobody gonna just do us any kind of way." And it seemed like something when them gunshots went off for a couple of 2 or 3 weeks there, things was kind of like, yeah, we're gonna let them, got a chance to get by a few times, go come without too much trouble. But we stayed there, and that was interesting. I used to go down to the Boston Common. There was a place called the Sugar Shack, and it was in what they call the combat zone. And that's where we lost one of our cells. We went down there. It was a really rugged area. And we didn't think about that. A lot of prostitution, a lot of pimps. So we used to go to these hole-in-the-wall places. It'd be black, dark, and you walk up in there. They look at you like, where you came from? Because it's a lot of regulars. They regularly be there. But we were bold and didn't know. So we walk off in these places. And, since we were together, we could still have fun, because we're going to mess with the ladies and all that anyway. That's what they're there for. We're going to mess with them. So we'd have a good time and get out. But the Sugar Shack used to always have great entertainment in Boston. I saw James Brown there. I saw the Main Ingredients there. I saw Jimmy Castor. Oh, I saw a number of different, up-notch type of entertainment in there. But you could tell it's one of those mafia-ran kind of places. Even though I didn't really know, after I reflect back and look at it, I could tell it was one of those mafia kind of joints because, the guy behind the bartender had a big diamond ring on and big gold chain around his neck, and wearing the slick silk-looking shirts and stuff. And this last name, was one of those Italian names. So, after knowing that, I kind of discerned from that, these are the kind of people running this joint. And then you look at different news clips and things. Even today, you hear how Boston was mobbed up with all these mobsters. The guy, Whitey, I forget his name. Yeah, they just caught him. He was 86 years old. And they got a hold to him, but he was a part of Boston Mafia. Anyway, but we stayed there.
9 months, right?
Yeah, about 9 months. And then we left and went to Cuba. Went to Guantanamo. Landed, because we had the sea trial again. And so we went to Guantanamo. We were there for 4 to 6 weeks. We got to go off the ship. So they would tell us, they said, well, don't go by that fence. So that's where you get shot at. Cuba's on the other side with guns. Don't go over there. Okay, no problem. We're not going over there.
This is like 4 years after the missile crisis, right? When was the missile crisis? 69?
No, the missile crisis was in 62, I think.
Well, 62, I thought it was.
It was 62.
My brain.
Yeah, Kennedy and Castro stood off with their missiles in Cuba, pointed at Florida. That was in 62. And anyway, we there, and you're getting bored because we don't know what to do. So a guy comes on, he says, man, they got a place called Jamaican Village. Let's go to Jamaican Village then. So, hey, we go down to Jamaican Village at this guy with the dread sitting up in a big little mud hut. Palm leaves and mud. This is how this building was made. In the middle of it, he's got this big potluck bucket going over fire. I don't know what yuca is. Yuca is this, it looks like a white potato, but it's not. I'm thinking it's a potato. You know, got some potatoes in there, got some carrots, some stuff. Man, boy, that looks good. Got some meat in the pot. So we sit around. Of course, we getting high, smoking plenty of big buzz. I mean, smoke covered out the place like a chimney. That's what we do it up in there. Right, get high, go back to the ship. So this particular day, he got the pot going, got the top on it. What's in the pot, man? We hungry, man. You're welcome, man. Get what you want. Okay, go over there, give us some little bowls, some wood spoons. We get to eat. Man, I got down in there. I got that whatever the little knuckle was. I got them mots. Man, it's tender. I ate the yuca. I'm thinking it was potato, but what is this? Yeah, okay, good. It's good, man. You know, you're high now, eating. So we got up. I said, man, let me tell you. Boy, that was like eating at my mama's house. I said, boy, that was good. I said, but tell me something, man. What was the meat? He said, monkey, man. That's monkey. I said, no, you ain't gave me no monkey. You mean to tell me I've been sitting there eating a monkey? But I'm going to tell you something. That monkey tasted good. That monkey tasted good, but it tastes like, I'm going to tell you right now, it tastes like oxtail. We used to go there, man. We used to go down there and eat all the time. We didn't even care what he had cooked now because we know we're going to have to cook something out the wood. Yeah. Whatever it was, we didn't care because that man had that stuff over that fire. And all them herbs he got from, you know, out around where you live. You know, he used the herbs from out where he lived at. He knew what to go cook with. Man, we ate some meals down there. But I'll never get that man fed me that monkey. So yeah, we stayed there. We stayed down in Guantanamo doing the sea trials, and they don't.
What are sea trials?
That's like, see, when we went to Boston, they took the ship out of the water.
Dry docked it.
They dry docked at that time, and they redone our kitchen completely, made it totally modern. Well, it ain't modern compared to today. I don't even think that ship's been decommissioned, but for that time, they put soda machines in where you could just come in and put a cup under it and get some soda. Before, they were pouring this stuff out of a bucket. You know what I'm saying? You got a big dipper, and there's a bucket right there, and a guy standing behind it, and you come by with your cup, they pour it in your cup. That's how they was doing it in the beginning. But when they revamped it in the yard, they put soda machines in, ice cream machines. You can go get you a cup and just run your cup of vanilla, chocolate ice cream. You can get 4 or 5 different kind of drinks. Yeah, it was cool after that. And you know, we ate really good. But the chow hall had this overtone to it. And this was bad. You can go to the chow hall and they might be serving steaks. We ate steaks a lot. Good, nice steak. And cooked to what you wanted. You like a steak well done? Yeah. Guy gonna cook it well done. I like mine medium rare. You gonna make my steak medium rare. Get a big baked potato like that. The big guys, I mean, you know, you got big guys, 6'6", 6'9", 6'8". You weigh almost 300. You gonna get 2 steaks. Because 1 steak ain't gonna do this guy. 2 steaks, 2 baked potatoes. Well, you know, you're not gonna get upset looking back at his plate because you look up and say, oh yeah, you need it. You know what I'm saying? Because your steak big, your potato big. You good. Yeah, you good. Yeah. The downturn comes when the chow hall's full. 5 white guys sitting at a table over there. One of them get up. Well, you've been standing there holding your tray, waiting to go sit down. Because that's how small the chow hall was. That's why they had to revamp it and make it bigger. Because you'd be standing up. And sometimes you had to be back on deck You didn't have time to go sit down. You have to just eat while you're standing up. See? But here you got these 5 guys, and you go and you sit down to the table. All of them will get up. All of them will get up. They're from Kentucky, Georgia, Alabama, some of them states. They would stand up and eat before they sit down to the table with you. That just overwhelmed me in a lot of instances. That really just pushed my button.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I never experienced that up close and personal, like had someone just, I know you got up because I came here. I know you did it. You were comfortable in the circle you was in, and now all of a sudden because I showed up. That's a terrible feeling. That's a terrible feeling. And that was something that was overtly, but I have to look back today and say that was during my time. I'm hoping today that people have, I don't run into that in no overt manners. Yeah. I've been a lot of places, but and it might be because I hadn't been corralled up nowhere to the point where, I have to be dealing with a specific group of people.
What year were you in Cuba? 63?
No, that was almost at the end of my tour, 73, 74, coming up at the end, coming up near the end.
No thought of re-enlisting?
Well, my first class, Mr. Smith, used to always talk to me about it. He said, Raif, he said, you're 19. He said, 20 years, 39. You retire. He said, I'm 38. I'm going to be out of here in 2 more years. Retirement. Go do something else. Yeah. He says, you should think about that. And I had. Yes. I want to be a career guy here. That was my thinking somewhat in the outset. What do I have in Gainesville? What kind of education can I get? None in board. My guidance counselor never talked to me about college. They told me about, you need to try to see where you're going to get a job. Because I don't see where, you're going to be able to go to some higher institution. And that's what I did. When I got a job, I was working at Howard Johnson around here in high school. But yes, I had a burning desire to be a career guy. But for the prejudice, the detriment, and the overtness of how people was, it changed my mind. I says, because, it was so rampant and so bad until basically, Mr. Smith protected me a lot. He was the first class. And had almost 20 years in. Okay? So he had power. You mess with Ray, I'm telling him. Simple as that. He gonna come and he gonna get somebody to burn you. Because he know I ain't one of them kind of guys. I work for him. He be around me every day, all day, until time to go to bed. From time to get up in the morning to time to go to bed. He around, so he know me. Been around me for the period of time that we was together, at least a year and something, maybe 2 years. He know me. So you come and mess with me, and I go tell him, you're gonna get burned. Just like that. And most of the guys who knew, like other petty officers that knew they weren't as smart as he was. He was a really highly intelligent guy. And he knew things that some of these guys that just came up, they didn't know. He knew the rule book really well.
20 years will do that, right?
Yeah, he knew the book good. And he could quote the stuff off the top of his head. See, now this is what you just did. This is what you violated. This is what you doing. And he could give them and tell them, you can get court-martialed for this. And that scare people if you got those scars on your arm, them little things, because that means you're going to lose money. You got a family, you don't want to get caught doing that and lose money that's going to help your family. So he could back people up. So I didn't get a lot of the like chiefs and stuff actually just mess with me. So they say, that Smith boy, you work for David. Don't worry about it. Let him go. I used to do some stuff, get away with it too. So did, because once I found out who he was and what position I held, okay, all this, y'all, you want to act like this with me? This how you want to act? Come on, bring it on. I got some help. I just run right back up them stairs. I run right back up them stairs. I go tell my first class. And he'd go call their first class, or he'll get their chief in there. And I've heard him tongue lash some of those guys, some of those people. Some of them had more rank than him. I'd see him give a tongue lashing to them out this world about how they should be. And he was not a prejudiced man. I have to say that wholeheartedly. He did not have one prejudiced bone in his body. He loved me just like a son. Like I said, I used to go to his house and stay. He didn't know me from a can of paint. I just showed up in the Navy, you know. But that, I have to say, that was a really good man. Took care of me, kept me from being a part of the overtness that was going on at the time. Yeah. Because people got hurt. You know, one day I was walking down the Hangar Bay, and there was a big white guy. He was about 6'5", about 320 pounds. He was from Texas. And what he would do, like I got this ring on my hand. I wore rings back then. He'd hold his hand out like befriending you, and he'd get your hand, and he would squeeze it. And this joker had been picking up them bales of hay and buck riding them cows since he was a little boy. You know he was strong. Man, feel like he was crushing my hand. I said, why he did me like that? So next time he came by, he put his hand out. I wouldn't give him my hand because I knew that's what he was going to do. So I saw him do somebody else like that. So one day, I just got mad. I saw him, and I know he big, and I know he was tough. I walked up to him, I says, you shook my hand the other day. You almost broke my hand, man. I said, you laughed about it. I said, but next time you come upon me, if you put your hands on me, you got to go to bed. I'm going to come to your rack at night, and I'm going to stick you to it. And I left him with them words. From then on, he was my friend. Johnson, anything wrong? And when he see me, Johnson, anything wrong? I said, no, ain't nothing wrong. No, ain't nothing wrong. You know, let me know, Johnson, if something. Let me know if anything wrong. I said, no, man, ain't nothing wrong. But just the idea that I let him know that, hey, I'm going to hurt you, man, because of what you did before. You know, he became my friend. And I've seen that in life, just walking around outside of the military. I've seen people who be threatening and being bullying you and all that. Once you show them that you ain't going to participate in that, more than likely they're going to either leave you alone or they're going to befriend you. They're going to come up with a better attitude than, I want to mess with you. Yeah, I've always found that to work. But when we left Cuba, you know, it was like winding down. My mama was sick. You know, we used to go to Louisiana. We caught so many planes at one time till we had a record. Captain said, hey, 7 days in Louisiana. We're going to New Orleans. Never been there. Going to New Orleans. Going to French Quarter. Okay, fine. Where we go. But at the same time, my mama had cancer. And my sister them wouldn't tell me because they said, well, if we told you, you ain't gonna stay. You're gonna leave come back home. I would. I was gonna do that. I would have did that. They didn't tell me though, so I came home, and it was right at the end. Came home and my mama passed, but I still had a little bit of service time left, so I had to go back after the funeral and finish up my time. But man, before I got all that bad news, we was in Louisiana, and my goodness, we was at Gretna. You know, Gretna is a little place across from, you take the ferry over to Gretna. And we used to be out there eating the big shrimp. You know, I had never seen a shrimp about big as this cup. I never seen one like that in my life. And we was in New Orleans, man, was eating shrimp and gumbo and tamales and all that good, you know, that Louisiana style food. Yeah, I had a great time down there. Met all these people talking about the voodoo. You know, they got the voodoo dolls and all that. You know, I don't know nothing about all this stuff. So all of this is all new. So, you know, my overall movement in doing this, I gained a lot. Learned about a lot of things that probably, you know, I know it's people here that ain't never been nowhere. They ain't been nowhere. They've been right around here in Gainesville, in their little small town. So I'm thankful I got to, you know, had the experience of traveling that road and going. And yes, I would have stayed, but for the overt activities of people. They actually ruined my goals. They actually ruined my goal. And it didn't allow for a good readjustment to society either.
Tell me about that, getting out. That was nice.
Getting out was, well, I didn't have a foundation to come back to because my mother had passed. So I came back. My stepfather had transitioned to somebody else, and he was doing his lifestyle. Well, you know, the government gives you unemployment. So I started getting the unemployment from the government, and my living conditions were not good at all. They were not good. If my mother had been living, we'd have had family situation. I came home to my mama and had my room and all that, but my stepdad didn't see that. So anyway, I stayed with him, and one day met this guy. Told me about going to school, Santa Fe. That's when Santa Fe was in the Thomas Center. The Thomas Center over off of 8th Avenue and 2nd. That was the first Santa Fe. First place they had school at was over there. So yeah, go to Santa Fe. So they said, okay, you're gonna get $319 a month, and we're gonna give you $4,100 for school. What? I'm gonna get $4,000 and an opportunity to go to school? Okay. So I went out and I got up, kind of started moving about, and I got me a job at Sears in the Gainesville mall out there. Well, my high school sweetheart was working in that same Sears. I didn't know it. We bumped into each other. What? We done found each other again because we were together for like 3 years, all high school. So we started dating again, and we got an apartment together. I started going to Santa Fe. I'm doing rather well over there. But $319 don't get it. Rent was $575. $319 don't get it. So now I start to look for other jobs, but job market ain't turning up. So now what happens? Turn to the streets. That's what you do. That's what a lot of guys do even now. Turn to the street. So my cousin had a big weed plantation going in Jonesville. So I go out there, and my cousin started giving me big bags of weed. So I set me up a spot where I could get my money for it, and started living good. Bought me a nice car, wearing nice clothes, living good, you know what I mean? Doing great, having money, feeling, you got a good feeling about yourself, even though you know, hey, that's illegal. That's wrong, but this is what you got to do because you got to eat, you got to survive. So I did that for, a couple of years. I did that, but nothing really big, just enough under the radar so that I could operate my vehicle, pay my rent, and get by. That's exactly what it was. I never saved a dime, just getting by. But I didn't have to worry because I had plenty of product, plenty of people who needed the product. So it was good. But then we decided, myself and Shelly, that was her name, decided to go to Memphis, Tennessee. And I was going to go to Memphis State University. Well, I got up there and things went terribly bad up there. My daddy died right in the middle of school, and I had to come back to Gainesville for his funeral and all that. And then when I got back here, didn't have no money to get back. So now I'm stuck in Gainesville, which was what I was trying to avoid all the time, getting stuck here. I wanted to be any place but Gainesville. Now, I like Gainesville now. I mean, Gainesville comfortable with me now. I wanted to be any place but here. So I stayed around, and later on I got a job. I was working doing the in-office mail for the city. So then I got a city job. I worked delivering the mail for about 18 months. And then I watched this guy in the shop running a printing press. So I asked him, I said, how much money you make doing that? He told me what he get per hour. I said, man, that's great. That's good money you're making there. I sure could use that. So this older guy, Mr. Pugh Brown, he was a shop manager. One day I said, Mr. Brown, I'd like to learn how to operate that machine right there. He said, oh, Raif, you ain't got time to learn how to do that. If you're gonna learn it, you're gonna have to do it during your lunchtime. He said, cause you ain't got no other time. I ain't gonna let you take city time to learn to do it. I said, well, yes, sir. He said, but I'm gonna tell you what. He said, I ain't never done nothing for a black person in my life. It's his direct words. I never did nothing for a black person in my life. He said, but I see you've been working, and I know you're trying. He said, the last time I saw anything to do with a black man, they were hanging him on the courthouse square over there. I said, well, I understand that was them time. He said, but I'm going to do something for you. He said, I'm going to teach you how to print, and I'm going to give you my job when I leave. That's what he told me. He said, but you're going to have to learn to print on your own time. So lunchtime was the time I had, from 12 to 12:30. That was it. So I brought my lunch. I ate my lunch standing at that machine. And I used to get so dirty, you had to bring a change of clothes. Because that ink would split all, that ink would get all over me. Yeah, oh man, that's in the beginning. And so I went on and on and on. But the guy that was working for Mr. Brown and the one that was on the machine was going to be the supervisor. I was going to be getting his job. That's how it was going to work. Well, he was not of the greatest mentality. He had some issues. So he didn't really want me to get that job. He wanted them to farm it out or post it, but skepticism played a big part in workplace. So they were going to get one of the cousins or uncles or aunts or brothers or something to get that job when Mr. Brown left. But Mr. Brown went to the administration and told them, because he had been around before some of the people who were there, He worked 35 years for the city, 35 years. So everybody knew Mr. Brown, right up to the mayor, okay? And he told him, he says, when I retire, I want Rafe to have that job. That's it. Rafe get that job. And then he told him that he was teaching me and he was getting me all together, getting me prepared for it. In the story, I'm getting that job. And sure enough, when Mr. Brown and left, they moved me into that position. But they didn't even they posted the job just like they would have done before and, cheated and let people got it. They did post it, but it was signed, sealed, and delivered. So they gave it to me. And that's how I began to work for the city. And I worked in the print shop. And actually, I got quite good at it. I used to run two of them things at one time. I'd be standing between them. We had a shoot. We had a chain delivery. I'd be running there. I'm sitting them side by side. I'd run both of them at the same time. This is how good I got. Yeah. And I enjoyed that job for a long time. I grew in it. But again, here come these people out of nowhere with these mentalities and these attitudes. Now, Mr. Brown is gone. Well, the only other things keeping me was the manager who was over the whole operation. Christian man, great man, good person, good human. Anytime they bothered with me, they tell him, he'd come down and say, leave Rafe alone. Why y'all want to do that to him? His Christian mindset would say, that's wrong to do him like that. That's wrong what you're doing. I'm not going to stand for it. So they'd back off. But they always kept coming up with schemes to try to get rid of me because they wanted somebody else. Because I'm making good money. By the time, about the 5th year, I was making $10 an hour, which back then was in the early 80s. That was pretty good. I was making $400 a week. And along the way, I procured a real estate license. So I'm working in the real estate business. Along the way, such as I'm doing now, I started the same type of company I got today, a balloon and novelties company. So now I got these, I'm working, I'm in the real estate, and I got my own business. We're working, I'm living good. I made 50 grand combined.
A year.
Yeah. Made 50. I made about 23,000 from the city, somewhere around there. And then I made maybe another 10, 11 off my little business project. And then I made the rest from real estate. I did we had lots of houses. I did lots of different things. But I was making a good income. Man, messed around there. These people finally came up with the right scenario. They went, now I had the key to the shop. And they came up with this story that I was late 3 times in 1 month. And they collaborated with each other. Because we didn't use a time clock. Yeah. We didn't have a time clock. They collaborated with each other to say that against me. But I was the guy with the key opening the door. If I didn't open the door, you couldn't get in. So why would I be late? How could I be late? So they use that. In the city, the policy is if you're targeted 3 times in a month, they can fire you. That's what they did. After 7 years of working there, these people conspired to get my position. That's what they did to me. So I lost everything. Lost my house, lost my cars. Because now, real estate is a commission business.
Yeah. So you don't have a job, you don't have...
Yeah, you don't have to, I ain't got a real foundation. Yeah. See, I could wait on a commission when I could pay my bills. I could wait. I got $1,200, $1,700 coming. Well, the closing ain't till 2 months from now. You know what I mean? Get my paycheck, I could wait. So, well, I went out the door with that. So now I'm back in the street. got to start doing something. Well, you know, you think about it. You say, well, I know this wrong, but the light bill due, I need this money. I got to pay it, or my light's going to be off, or I'm going to be out the door. So here comes somebody with cocaine. Okay, this is how much you sell this much, you can get this much money. So now I'm in the cocaine business. This is where I'm at. Life is spiraling down. Really. So because I'm not going to make, you know, Bentley money, I ain't going to get, you know, 1.3 million out of this. It's the same scenario. You're getting enough money to keep yourself up. Maybe, you know, my car payment, I had already repossessed them because I couldn't pay that. So I got to get enough money together now just to buy me another car. So now this is what this money's getting used for. So down the road, at some point, you're going to get arrested. It's inevitable. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like they say in the mob, it's the overhead of doing business. So I started doing business and started getting arrested. Now I lose my real estate license. But it was in jeopardy by me doing that. So now I can't do real estate. So now I got to really be in the criminal realm. So then I start doing different types of crimes here and there, here and there. So that's why if you was to research my police record, it's quite extensive. And I'm not something that I'm proud of, but I know the basic circumstances of how I got there. Being met in the face with unemployment and not being able to get the sufficient funding from a job to, you know, that they talk now, $15 an hour, that's just abundant, that's just gonna get people going until they raise prices on something else that don't equate that, you know, gonna parallel that 15. Yeah, sooner or later they're gonna, you know, goods and services gonna catch up with that 15 just like catch up all the other time. But yeah, that'd be great, people get that. But, you know, when I'm working, I wasn't getting that kind of money. So the money I'm getting out the streets, I might get one day $600. Yeah. The other day I might get 70, $80. The other day I might make $900. But it all in all, it's counting up to me being able to do what I need to do. So I continued, and I never adjusted back to work. I think I went somewhere along 10 years without working legally. Just being in the street, manipulating from stolen property to whatever mechanism came up that was valuable enough to make some money. A lot of that stuff's in here. A lot of it I wrote myself because I just reminisce about it. I say, well, maybe write my stories down. Because it's been a real travel. Ending up, I've done extensive time in different facilities, you know, incarcerated in all kind of county jails all over the state of Florida. Because I've been in all these different places, hustling as they call it, getting money, try to live. So I would get caught up, go to jail, be there 10 days, 15 days, sometimes 5 months. You know, sometimes 10 months. Go to the P farm, been to the P farm in Jacksonville 2 or 3 times, because I lived over there about 5 years. I didn't have a job. I think I worked about maybe 3 or 4 months, the whole 5 years over there. All the rest of the time was in the streets. And it went on down to the point where I created this elaborate system. And it didn't take no genius to do it. It just took trial and error. One day we were here in Gainesville, and there was a carpet company. The guy left his checkbook left the big company checkbook on the seat of the truck. Well, a buddy of mine went to the truck, got it. So what we did was we took the checks out the back of the book, all the Winn-Dixies, $700 every time. Your pocket full of money, having a great time. So I figured sooner or later we're gonna get found out about this. Time to move. So I moved to Jacksonville. That's how I got over there. I moved to Jacksonville. Well, I got nothing to do there either. But I did get little jobs here and there. But that idea of how much money I was getting in that arena was still, live and well.
Can I ask you a question, Raif? Because one of the things that I very often hear, like a lot of guys that we interview, like, I was in nowhere, Minnesota, and the only way that I was ever going to make anything out of myself was either going into the military or going to the streets. And I joined the military as like a way out of my circumstances.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that's interesting about your story is that, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but like one of the things I'm hearing is that like a lot of what you learned about hustling, you learned in the Navy.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, because people there, that's what they did. I didn't know nothing about that, like, in an overt manner. Like I learned about loan sharking. I learned about dice and gambling. I learned about the sale of drugs. I learned what drugs was what. I didn't know. I had no idea. And then until somebody said, this is what heroin looks like. And I got to taste it. Oh, that's bitter. Yeah, that's what heroin tastes like. Cocaine here. Snort some. Oh, it burns my nose. Yeah. And you can tell. Oh, yeah, I can tell now. So you had all these people from everywhere that already knew about this stuff. I'm coming from Gainesville, Florida. This town didn't even have paved roads when I left here, basically. Most of the roads was either lime, rock, or dirt. These people coming from where they had paved roads all the time. They're selling cocaine out the grocery store. You can go in and buy a dozen eggs, and the man put a $40 bag of coke in your grocery bag. That's already was being done. So, yeah, I picked a lot of the, what you call street knowledge from guys that I was around that was from bigger cities. Like playing con, how they take you and have you tie your goods up in a handkerchief, and they actually got two handkerchiefs that look just alike. And they tell you, say, listen, I'm going to give you one of them. I'm going to give you this one because you're a good guy and I can trust you. I'm going to give you the handkerchief with everything in it, and I'll meet you at the McDonald's tomorrow, and we'll go take it and sell the stuff in it and split the money. Well, at the same time, I done already switched because I took that one because they folded the same way, then they got the same handkerchief. The hand is faster than the eye. I already done switched and gave you the one with nothing in it. You learn all that stuff I learned all that kind of stuff from being around guys that were, in the military.
You used the word impressionable earlier on. You were an impressionable 19-year-old.
Yes. Yeah. Because you didn't learn that, you didn't get all these, you didn't get all this stuff around game. You didn't have where you going to go in game but to find out about cocaine?
Yeah.
You ain't going to find out about that around here. You had to go somewhere where people already knew about it. And the only way I was going to get out to go where people knew, which that wasn't what I went to go learn about. I went because I wanted to be in the Navy. Yeah. I wanted to be a part of, have this to be my career goal. Because I said, I ain't going to college. I might as well go and stay there my 20 years, get out, and get my retirement money and go to school, whatever I'm going to do afterward.
So we've got 10 minutes left.
All right.
I've got 2 questions left, and then I'll open it up to you two if you've got any questions. The first one is, and you've spoken a lot about the way that it has shaped you. Is there anything that you would say, like looking back, that you took from the military that was positive?
Punctuality.
Punctuality.
Being punctual. I was here, wasn't I? I was here. I even called you today.
You did, yeah.
Punctuality. That's one of the attributes that I think that I gained, and being a positive person, because I had to be strong and positive to make it. I had to have a positive mentality that I was going to get through this. And I'm a positive guy today. Things that I start to do, I have a tendency to do it and overdo it, because I'm positive I'm going to get it done. I never start something that I'm not going to get through. Yeah. I try my best to move it forward in whatever my endeavor is.
Don't quit, like your mom said.
Yeah, never quit. Never quit. And I'm still at it today, even though all of the ordeals that I went through, I think that I'm still a positive guy. I'm still not one to batter or elevate myself above any other humans. I'm still one of those normal, neutral human beings. I've had some of everybody come, right now, just for an example, I've had a Mexican person come stay at my house since I've been living here. I've had white guys, white girls, black men, all from different walks of life, of difficulties, come and live with me until they got to the point where they can venture out and move on. Since I've been in Gainesville from 2007. So, I think I'm a really positive human being.
And that's what got you through. I mean, this is my thinking about it. This is what I'm hearing. You say, like, you had to be positive in the Navy, but you also had to be positive on the street, right? Like, you got to be like all of these things.
Yes. That's why I was successful.
Yeah.
It's sometimes people say, well, how were you successful in the criminal arena? I didn't get killed.
Well done.
I didn't get killed. I didn't get killed in either one of them. I didn't get killed in the military, and I didn't get killed in the street. So I think that I've had some success.
The other question is, if you had a captive audience of civilians, which you do right now too, but what is it that civilians should know about veterans?
Veterans have a difficult time. Veterans do not acclimate well. Veterans all have problems. A lot of them hide them. Veterans have problems. You cannot start out, and this is the view I would give anybody. I started out a naive human being. And somewhere along the line, the Navy teach you about killing too. Got to learn how to use a gun. 45, M16, you got to learn how. And what they tell you, if you get a problem, you have to kill that. If the enemy is upon you, you got to kill them. So you're going to get a total different mindset than what a person who never went. You got a problem because you already been told that it's all right that you can take a human life, whether you know it's not legal out here on the street like that. You know that, but that's already put there. You can't get rid of that. And a lot of veterans just have issues, and veterans should be looked at in a different fashion because they've been trained in an arena that you can get killed in, and so you have to turn yourself up real high in your mind. I'm not going to die like this. I'm not going to die out here, or I'm going to do what I got to do. And to see you turn yourself up way high like that, it's hard to come down.
One of the things that people say is a little way that it's described. It's like you're spun up, like the Navy is like spun up all the time, and you're always, even if you're not at war, and you were enduring wartime, right?
Yeah.
you're in an organization that's at war.
Yeah.
You are thinking like you are in an organization that's at war. And then
Exactly.
you come to a civilian world that doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah.
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 You say, man, what you talking about? You gonna mess around with somebody? I say, man, that war.
Yeah.
What? My brother just got shot over there.
Yeah.
And you gonna open your mouth like that around me? See, now I'm triggered.
Yeah.
See, so you gotta be careful.
Whether you're a combat vet or not, you're still in the same organization.
Same organization, same thing. You know, you don't have to be in combat to see death and dying. You can get killed in basic training. All you gotta do is stand up doing some live rounds. That doesn't happen plenty of times. They didn't even make it from basic training. Stood up doing some live rounds. You know, they're firing them live rounds. They tell you, don't stand up. Keep your head down. Well, here's some poor kid from some place that didn't get the right instruction, stood up, riddled with bullets. That happens. Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Well, I was remembering our first conversation when you go to talk to somebody at the VA. How did that happen for you that you decided to seek some help?
Oh, well, I felt that I needed it. It just came upon me because I've been looking at my life. And I'm saying my life is not, there's something wrong here somewhere. I need to go talk to someone of a professional nature to get some insights on what maybe I should do. I tell them how I feel and be genuinely honest about it. And in doing that, they can help me. You know, so that's what made, I decided I needed to go and talk to someone. But first of all, I have nightmares. Definitely have problems sleeping. Sometimes I don't have the best of moods. There's something wrong with that. I mean, it didn't just come along. Well, I don't feel good today and I don't feel good tomorrow. I don't feel good the next day. I mean, life is not just that dramatically bad. There's something that you need adjustments in to, find out where to tweak it at. Tweak it this way, tweak it that way, and maybe you come out. And I've learned some things by going. I used to get triggered, particularly about black and white issues, death and dying. I get triggered in a minute. You know what I'm saying? I've been called a nigga a million times. So, now I don't even see that because I've learned how to deal with a human who has that mentality. First of all, I'm not going to communicate with you. You can say it. You can call me whatever derogatory name you want. I'm not going to entertain you. That's first of all. So now we're not going to go no further. We're going to be, that's a neutral ground. If I'm not going to be combating in words with you, then what you going to do? You can't do nothing. All you did was had a waste of breath. I'm going about my business. It was the time I would confront you. What you said, man? What? I would do that. I don't do that. I learned how to cope, as they would probably say. I learned how to, take that bomb out, take the detonation string out of it. So most of the time when I get into situations now where I sense that the people have a certain type of mentality, I just walk away. I just leave. I just go someplace else. If I sense the atmosphere is not conducive for me, I go somewhere else. I don't need that confrontation. I don't need that in my life. So rather than do it, I go.
No need to answer this if you don't want to, but have you been diagnosed with PTSD?
Yeah.
Yeah. And your triggers are race,
Yes.
racial confrontation,
Yes.
and then death and dying. So.
Yes. Yeah. Because as I explained, on my ship, racism was a big, it was every day. You didn't know how to take a break. There wasn't no break. I see you go to chow hall, you know, you go to sit down at the table, all the white guys getting up. That ain't just gonna happen that day. That's gonna happen any day you go in there.
So you're always alert, waiting for it.
Always, it's always there. It was always there. But what me as a human had to learn to do is just what I said. I had to learn to judge people by, like what Martin Luther King said, the content of their character. If you are characteristically not good, it's going to show, because that's what we're made up of, our character. And once I see that, and I'm not bothering with you, bye. Your character's flawed with me. And so I'm not going to interact with you at all. You know? But if I find your character is conducive for a relationship, then yeah, me and you going to be friends. Yeah, Rafe, I'm your friend, Jeff. I'm your friend. Yeah, we can do that. But when it comes to me thinking or looking at you like I'm going to hate you just right off and I don't know you, I'm not doing that. I'm going to give you your opportunity to mesh with me. I'm going to give you that opportunity. I do that with all persons. Give them the opportunity. My dentist was from Korea. That's where he was from. I didn't, you know, my dad was in the Korean War, as I said. I didn't have no problem with him as a Korean. He never did nothing to me. You know, I went to his graduation 2 Fridays ago at the dentistry thing over there. Sure did. And we took pictures and all that. Yeah. But I would have did that for a guy from Africa. I would have did that with a guy from South America. Because his character was good. His character was good. And that's what you got to appreciate. You know, I study under the Baha'i faith. That's my arena as far as if you talk about religion. And the Baha'is believe that there is the overall goal of unity of every human being. And that's me. I believe that everybody can come together and all these things. I know I'm not going to live to see it, but to have that type of belief and have that philosophy and spread it, you know, there's somebody else from you talking to them and being the right kind of person and having the right kind of character, they can take on that same adjustment. And then next thing you know, you got more and more and more and more people. And soon you have a community of people with very good mindsets and very good character and caring about each other. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Well, sir, I can't thank you enough, Rick.
Yes.
It was amazing of me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank both of you, man. Yes. You want to-